Alright, hello, this is RueshTV, and I am playing the Resto Shaman. This is my one and only love in the game, my Shaman, that I hardly play anymore. Wave to the crowd, everybody. How's it going? Alright, so this is Wolfle. He's my Resto Shaman, and I figured I would talk about the changes that came to the Shaman tree since Warlords of Draenor. So I wrote up a little bit of a guide here, some changes, so I'm just going to read them to you. In the changes, the totems no longer have restrictions on the element. So you can toss down, a couple of these totems like Earthen Shield and Healing Stream and Cloud Burst and whatever totem you have available. You do not have to wait and cancel it if you toss down something else like an oh shit. It throws it independent of each other. It does not matter what the element is. Alright, many of the talents can be placed now without having to talent for it. So we have a few talents that are now available for us, like Healing, Tide, and many different things. It's independent of our talent tree, and it frees up our talent tree to actually use useful things. However, there have been a few talents that have been moved to the PvP side, honor talents here. So if we just look over here, if we can actually see like the Wind Fury totem, we have Sky Fury and Counter Strike totems that are new over there, Grounding totem, things like that. So those are just a couple of totem changes. The next thing right here, as you can see, Earth Shield is moved to a PvP talent, which makes me sad because that was my thing that I kept up on the tanks. It's just not beneficial anymore in PvE, which makes me sad. And then Water Shield is no longer available, which when I think of a Shaman, I think of having water things around me, and not having Water Shield just kind of makes me sad. But that's just a couple of Legion changes. So then you're probably thinking, oh, how am I going to survive if I don't have any type of mana regeneration? Well, talking about your mana regeneration, right now I have 160k, which is alright, and you can really just gain your mana back through your mana regeneration. Right here, my MP5 is 6,400. I'm not sure what it's going to be, with more gear in the expansion, but currently my MP5 is 6.4k, which is not terrible since I have 160k. Just to use abilities that will help out, like Healing Wave, 2.8k right there. So I can use 3 Healing Waves in 5 seconds and be top mana. So it's not really too terrible. I like it. It's good for that, but Water Shield still makes it kind of terrible. Also, another thing that might be helpful is the ability that we have. It's a passive, and it is called Resurgence. Let's just pull it up right here, which just says your critical heal refunds percentage of your maximum mana. So 1% from Healing Wave, 60% from Surge, Riptide, and 25% from Jango. So 0.25%, not 25, 0.25. So you just have a percentage of a Healing Wave you can actually critically refund, which is awesome. 1%. So 1% of 160k. It's very helpful. Very helpful. Speaking of Resurgent as an important proc, another important proc will be Tidal Waves. Tidal Waves, so you casting Chain Healer Riptide reduces the cast time of your next healing wave by 30 seconds, or increase the critical effect chance of your healing surge by 20%, and it stacks up to 2. So with your Riptide on your tanks, you easily keep Tidal Wave going, and you'll want to have 100% uptime on that. And then we do have 2 healing cooldowns, maybe a 3rd healing cooldown that actually might be beneficial, and we'll get through a discussion of that for emergency heals. But we have our Healing Tide totem, and we also have the Spirit Link totem. Those are your 2 main totems. So we'll talk about totems later. Alright, so we're going to talk about talents now. A couple of things that are beneficial to the healing. We have a dungeon leveling general multi-purpose spec. Then we also have like a raid content healing. So if you're doing more group healing for that, that's where you're going to want to go. So for the 15 talent right here, we have Undulation, Unleashed Life, and Torrent. It makes me sad that Unleashed Life is now a talent, and it's not even that great of a talent because we have Torrent available. But Unleashed Life unleashes Elemental Force of Life, healing a target for 22,000 and increasing the effect of the Shaman's next direct heal by 30%. Just can't really predict where that bonus is going. Utilization every third healing wave or healing surge you cast heals for an additional 50%. Something like that can actually be beneficial. That'd be something you would want to choose over Unleashed Life. And then we have Torrent, which most people are going to go because it's no longer a glyph, it is a talent, where it increases the initial heal from Riptide by 40%. So if you're doing a dungeon, you start getting gear, Riptide is just going to be the thing that you're going to be casting on the tanks anyways, and majority of the time you can keep up a good tank with just your Riptide. So I chose that. More practice probably into the third heal. You know, if you're spamming your tank, he's not too geared a bunch with healing waves or healing surges. That third heal every time could actually be very, very helpful. But we're just going to stick with Torrent, and that's an ability that I do in my general and my rating. Next one down for level 30, we have Gust of Wind, Graceful Spirit, and Wind Rush Totem. Gust of Wind hurls you forward. Graceful Spirit reduces the cooldown of Spirit Walker's Grace by 60 seconds and increases your movement speed by 20% while active, and increases your movement speed in Ghost Wolf by an additional 20%, which is actually pretty cool and something that the general purpose will actually use. Spirit Walker's Grace is now just 1 minute cooldown with Graceful Spirit, so it's really, really helpful. And then Wind Rush Totem. You summon a totem at your feet for 15 seconds, continuing granting all allies who pass within the 10 yards 60% movement speed. So there's benefits in close quarters. Having the ability to run quickly with this for 15 seconds is just like an oh shit, I got to get everybody out of this mess. That's why we choose that. But in general purpose, a 5-man raid, you don't have to really to worry about that. The 10 mans plus, that one's good. So in the general purpose, you go with this. In the larger groups, you go with Wind Rush. 45, this one is just up in the air, I feel. Lightning Surge Totem summons a totem at the target location that gathers electrical energy from the surrounding air and then explodes. 2 seconds, stunning all enemies. Earth Grab just does the same thing. Pulses every 2 minutes, rooting everybody in around, slowing and impairing their movement. And then we have Voodoo Totem, which actually replaces Hex, and it just, hexes all targets around. So it's really just up to you what would be beneficial. I just know that some targets can't be hexed, like in raids, so you wouldn't want to grab that, and you would just go with Lightning Surge for that. And I just have that in both the leveling / dungeons and then the raid. So if you want to play around with these two, feel free. Just this is what I would go with. Level 60 is another one where we're not really sure specifically which one you would go with. Personally, I'm a big fan of Deluge. I was just playing around with Ancestral Guidance to see what's the hype on that one. But Crashing Waves, Riptide grants an additional charge of Tidal Waves, which is interesting. It's something to play around with since Riptide is something you're going to be using over and over. Ancestral Guidance was playing around with this, but for the next 10 seconds, 20% of your damage and healing is converted to healing on up to 3 injured nearby parties. Of course, it's kind of hard to predict where it's going to go, but it's beneficial in your 5-man. So that's something you would want to do when you like a multi-purpose 5-man group. And then we have Deluge, where Chain Heal heals an additional 20% on the target within your healing range or affected by your Riptide. So if you're constantly using your healing rain and you have Riptides going in your group, Chain Heal is definitely going to boost your heal per second there. So in the general, went with this 5-man, and in the rating, I went with Deluge. For the level 75 talent, we have the Ancestral Protection Totem, the Earthen Shield Totem, and then we have the Ancestral Vigor. The Ancestral Protection Totem summons a totem at your target location for 30 seconds. All allies within the 20 yards of the totem gain 10% increased health. If an ally dies, the totem will be consumed to allow them to reincarnate with 20% health and mana. That's really, really powerful. In a situation where you can have potential deaths, you know that you're going to die soon, or just a mechanic that is just going to give a tank at some point. You just toss that down. If they die, they can pop back up. So that's really, really powerful if you're able to switch to that and you know that's coming up. So that's something to think about. Earthen Shield Totem summons a totem with 341 health at your feet for 15 seconds, 6,000 damage from each attack against allies within 10 yards of the totem is redirected to the totem. So it's like a grounding totem, but specifically just takes the damage from each target and destroys the totem instead. Then we have Ancestral Vigor, which is the thing that is told to grab for both specs. Would be targets you heal with Healing Wave, Healing Surge, Chain Heal, or Riptide's initial health gain 10% increased health for 10 seconds. So it's just, boost the tank's hit points if you use Vigor. So can't be really mad about that. Level 90 talents, we have Bottomless Depths, Cloudburst Totem, and Echo of Elements. Bottomless Depths, Resurgent always trigger when you heal a target below 60% health. I like it. Cloudburst Totem, summon the totem at your feet for 15 seconds that collect power from all your healing spells. When the totem expires or dies, the stored power is released, healing all injured allies within 40 yards for 25% of the healing done. It was active, divided among the targets evenly. And then we have Echo of Elements. So Riptide, Healing Surge, or Healing Stream Totem, and Lava Burst now have 2 charges. Other effects that reset their remaining cooldown will instead grant 1 charge. In addition, when you consume a charge of Tidal Wave, you have a 10% chance to generate a charge of Riptide. That's really powerful as well. I used Cloudburst in this previous expansion, so it really just depends. Bouncing between Cloudburst and Echo of the Elements, or Bottomless Depths if you're having a little bit of mana problems. But I chose Cloudburst in both of my potential specs. The next one, the 100 talent, you really have 3 talents that you can just interchoose depending on your playstyle, and it's going to be really hard for me to be like, oh, you need to go with this one. But Ascendance, Wellspring, and High Tide. Alright, so we'll start with Ascendance. This one is actually pretty cool because you turn to this Water Ascendant for 15 seconds. And then all the healing you've done is duplicated and distributed among allies. It's a huge AoE heal. It was an awesome cooldown to use, especially when you're in a fight like Blackrock Furnace and you're just, taking a lot of damage. You pop that up and you get everyone topped off really easy if your Healing Tide was on cooldown. It's just a really awesome item to have. Now it's a talent. It's unfortunate that it is the 100 talent with all these other cool things. Wellspring creates a surge of water that flows forward, healing all targets in a wide arc in front of you, 21,000. That's really good for a 5-man, right? It's a 20-second cooldown, right? 20 seconds. This is a 3-minute cooldown, 20 seconds. So it's a 1.3 cast time. I mean, I'll just show it to you right now. Like, you're just healing like a wave. So anything caught in that wave will actually get healed. Alright, and look, we're halfway through the cooldown already. So you just incorporate that into your rotation and you should be good to go. However, it's just not something that I'm a big fan of. So I'm just going to go back and talk about High Tide, where Chain Heal bounces to 1 additional target, and its fall off with each bounce is reduced in half. So if you go with Deluge, where the Chain Heal heals an additional 20%, you're really going to stick with High Tide, and it's a talent that was in WoD that I went with every time. So it is just something that I'm familiar with and I'm used to. So that is the talents. I'm going to show you My rating spec right here. So Torrent, Wind Rush, Lightning Surge, Deluge, Ancestral Vigor, Cloudburst Totem, and High Tide. And then for my leveling, general or 5-man group stuff, I went with Torrent, Graceful Spirit, Lightning Surge, Ancestral Guidance, Ancestral Vigor, Cloudburst Totem, and Wellspring. I will potentially probably play with Bottomless Depths just to see how things go, but I'm just going to stick with Cloudburst Totem for that. So I'm just going to go back to, I'll probably just stay with this one. This should be fine. Yeah, I'll just stick with this. Just going to show you a little bit of healing. I'm just going to go to the trials and do it there. So I'll just remove that, no longer have that. Is there anything? I could probably pull that to my bar. Ancestral Guidance, pull that to the bar. Vigor is just passive. Alright, so I'll see you in a little bit and we'll just talk about how this goes in the garrison. Just give me a moment. Alright, so we are working on these proving grounds. I'm just doing the bronze level, and then I'll just do silver, and then why not, we'll just try for the gold. Alright, so Otto the Protector seems like he is the tank, so I'll just keep Riptide up on him, and then I'll just, Healing Wave as I go. That was really simple. I probably should do something more challenging, but for the sake of this video, I'm just showing you the abilities. So I'm just keep Riptide up on him, and then we'll throw down Healing Stream Totem, and we'll do that. So while I'm just kind of bouncing around with this, I can actually talk about what skills and abilities you really should be looking out for when you're doing this. So for low to moderate damage, which this is technically low and moderate, you really want to keep up Riptide on the main tank and not think if you're in a raid situation. And this one, I'm just going to keep Otto up on the Riptide, no problem. See, now these people took a little bit of damage, it's no big deal. Otto is taking a little bit more damage, which is not terrible, but I'm just going to boost him up a little bit with Healing Wave. Alright, so when you get that, you want to just keep this right here, this Tidal Wave up as much as you can. I also have Vigor up, which is pretty cool. But with that Riptide, you just want to, it provides Tidal Wave. You want to keep it up 100% of the time, and you never want to actually overwrite your Riptide. So you see it wore off on him, so then you want to actually replace it. Healing Wave is what you're going to be using. It doesn't use a whole lot of mana. Before I talked about the healing resources, how that just, you regain more mana per multiple casts than you did actually using Healing Wave. So I'm healing him for 80, 90, some K. That's not really terrible at all. We're in a situation where we're getting hammered now, so I have to use a little bit more mana to heal everybody up. Otto used his shield wall, which is fantastic. Alright, so I'm just going to toss down Healing Rain, toss down my Healing Totem, and then everybody around me should get some type of healing for that. Alright, so yeah, this Healing Stream Totem on your CD, Healing Rain if it fits and benefits multiple targets, Cloudburst if you need to use it on cooldown, it just benefits you if you do, and if you grab the Earthen Shield, you want to use it on cooldown as well. If you're in a situation where you need to heal heavy, then Healing Surge is the way to go. It's more of like an oh crap thing. So moderate to heavy, if you do need to end up using it, then you just got to make sure that you keep Healing Tide up, or Riptide up on the tanks, and then just like bounce around Healing Wave on everybody. Otto is taking a crap ton of damage, so I'm just going to give him the Surge. I'm just going to use the Cloudburst Totem as well. And we'll see just how that looks on the heal bot as it bounces and expires. I should probably give him some Riptide. And Cloudburst is still going, and it did a little minor damage. Only pros I'm using just a healing wave. Yeah, that was simple. Alright. So if you're using on the raid, which shamans are pretty good with raid damage, Riptide, Healing Stream, Chain Heal, Healing Rain, Healing Wave to conserve mana, Healing Stream, Cloudburst, those all abilities. So Riptide, Heal Wave, Chain Heal, Healing Surge, Healing Rain, Healing Stream, Healing Tide, Spirit Link, Cloudburst, and things like that. I didn't even use Ancestral Guidance, and I didn't even use Spirit Walker's Grace. So you may not even need to necessarily use those, but you just have all these in your arsenal to use, and make sure you just like pair up Healing Rain and Healing Tide just to get some heals, and that's basically it. For emergency heals, you do have 2 totems for emergencies, as well as just using your Healing Surge. Healing Tide totem is going to be your best type of heal. Your forefront most totem heal is using in a group, big break group like you're doing the invasions. You get crazy amount of heals. Spirit Link is crazy too. It just grabs everybody in the area 10%, and everybody gets everybody's health is redistributed across the board. So it's actually really cool if you have a couple people that are at 100%, and you have a couple people at like 10%, and throw it down in big raid, and everybody gets redistributed. It's just redistribution for the people who just got those huge heals. So it'll benefit you the most, especially if you're trying to avoid them from dying. And then Healing Surge, as you saw, it's just a quicker heal. It's like a flash heal, so actually kills your mana down 20k from doing that. So that is basically the rotation or priority, technically, if you want to call it that, for the healing. Healbot, if you're against it, I'm sorry, I'm just going to show you what I have. For my left click, Healing Wave is my left click, Chain Heal is my shift click, and then Control Click is my cleanse. I also have Decursive, so that's really just something I play around with. Middle click is Riptide and Earth and Shield totem if I have it, which I don't have it. It used to be my Earth Shield button, which makes me sad that it's gone, but I'll use it for PvP. The right click is my Healing Surge and my Healing Stream totem, and as well as Cleanse Spirits, because I want to make sure I heal the curses. So shift or control click, left, right, middle, doesn't matter. I'll decurse you. Alright. Before I conclude, one other thing that we probably should talk about is your stat priority. And the stat priority for shamans are as followed. Intellect is going to be number 1. Most of your gear is going to be intellect anyway, so it's something that you really shouldn't be worrying about stacking, other than if you should use a piece or not, and if it has intellect on it. Yes, you probably should. The next one is going to be mastery. Right here I have 54% mastery, which is pretty insane, but can't be mad at it. Next one down off the mastery is critical strike, haste, and then versatility. So I'm struggling in the critical strike. I just haven't really played that much with this character since Blackrock Furnace, when I have Mythic, Heroic Warforged, Heroic gear from caches are actually doing the thing. So 697 item level is kind of a lie, but it really is just doing the instances Blackrock Foundry. So that's essentially it for me. I hope you've learned something. Shamans are not to be messed with. I can't speak for any of the other specs for Shaman, but Resto is something that I am growing fond of, and I am willing to help or share anything that I can. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. And this is RueshTV, and thank you for watching.